Driving Business.
Welcome back to the Be Your Best show. Today we are still looking at how you can be your best in fighting crime and how you can keep yourself away from getting on the wrong side uh, of the law. Now, there is still a mix-up at times between the role of the office of the DPP and that of the judiciary. Probably it is clear between the police what happens at the police and the DPP, but between DPP and now the judiciary, there seems to be a mix-up. Can you try to explain what the role of DPP is and what the role of the judiciary is in that regard?
Thank you very much, Mr. Torach. I'll make it very clear that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions is separate and distinct from the judiciary. They are two different institutions and they do different things, but they do related work. I stated the mandate of the Office of the DPP, but generally speaking, the Office of the DPP appears before the judiciary in courts of law to present criminal matters of members of the public and argue them for purposes of determination by the judiciary. So we present criminal cases before magistrates and judges who are part of the judiciary. And the magistrates and the judges use that evidence to decide whether an accused person is guilty or innocent. So you can see the difference. Yes, we sit at the bar and they sit at the bench.
That is a nice distinction of the two.
Yes.
And now, I wonder what kind of decisions normally are made when the Office of DPP receives files from the police.
When we receive case files from the police, we can make a number of decisions. The first decision that we can make is sanctioning charges against particular persons for committing particular offenses. So we will sanction a charge sheet, or we shall direct the police to charge a particular person in respect of a particular offense, let's say murder. We can also, upon perusing the case file and realizing that evidence is not sufficient to sustain a charge or to warrant a person being charged, and yet there's some evidence and there are areas of inquiry that the police can inquire into, we can then direct the police to conduct further investigations or further inquiries into that matter. So in that case, we shall specify to the police what they need to do. If they need to obtain a certain exhibit from a particular place, we'll tell them, go to such and such a place and obtain this exhibit, which could be a document, let's say from Uganda Registration Services Bureau, something to do with registration of a company. And then we will direct them to resubmit the case file to us upon the completion of those investigations. Then the last decision that we can take in respect of a case file that has been presented to us by the police is closing the case file. We can direct the police to close the case file if we read the file and find that there is absolutely no evidence against anyone in respect of committing an offense and there are no areas for inquiry whatsoever. That is a dead matter, so we tell them to close and put away the case file, and that's the end of that file.
I'm reminded about something we touched on, the usual complaints about delays in handling cases. what are some of those areas that can lead to delays in concluding cases?
Some investigations are quite complex and they may take a much longer time than others. So in those kinds of cases, you will expect delays. Those kinds of investigations cannot be done speedily. So you'll find that by the time that case comes up in court, it's been a while. And usually complainants are agitated
Correct.
by that. And then sometimes it's because of case backlog. We currently have a criminal justice system that suffers from a problem of case backlog. There are just so many cases, and not all the cases can be heard at the same time. And to make matters worse, human resources also limited. We don't have as many prosecutors. There are not as many judicial officers. So certain cases, especially capital cases, they have to be fixed for hearing through sessions. And sessions are not as frequent. They are fixed once in a while. So they come up once in a while, and so you find there are a number of cases that have not yet been heard, that could have been heard. Yes.
Now, what are some of those innovative ways the Office of DPP and Judiciary have come up with in order to expedite concluding some of these cases?
There are a number. We have plea bargaining.
Yes.
Plea bargaining is the process where the prosecution and the accused persons come to an agreement, and the accused person decides to plead guilty
Provided.
to a lesser charge or to a sentence agreed upon and allowed by the court, or to an offense that is reduced.
Won't that motivate somebody
Or
to
dropped.
plead guilty on when somebody has really not committed a crime?
So you see, plea bargaining as a process is only for accused persons that know and are sure they committed offenses. And usually when we do plea bargaining, we sensitize the accused persons. We let them know that they should not engage in the plea bargain process unless they are sure that they committed offenses. Yes.
So which other innovative ways you can discuss of which you have come up with to expedite handling of cases?
So there are also sessions. They're trying to put as many sessions and also specialized sessions like SGBV sessions. So we're trying as much as possible to have a number of cases cleared in the shortest time possible. So we have sessions going on and on, which are reducing the backlog.
Now, you mentioned gender-based violence. How is it like? Is it common? Is it not common? How is it?
As a matter of fact, gender-based violence cases, especially sexual gender-based violence cases, are the commonest in this country. About 70% of the cases that we have in this country or in the criminal justice system are related to sexual gender-based violence, mostly defilements, simple defilement and aggravated defilement.
That doesn't sound good at all.
Not at all.
So the
Because
solution,
it's mostly children that are affected.
are we able to collect the evidence and get successful prosecution?
Yes,
Or there is some compromise also in the society?
yes, we are doing our best to prosecute the cases. Like I mentioned, we currently have sexual gender-based violence special sessions. Those are sessions that are specifically for those kinds of cases. So it's to ensure that there's justice for these kinds of victims. And we have witnesses that are coming to testify in these cases, but one of the major challenges that we're having in proving these cases is that some members of the public want to stop prosecution of these cases. They come saying that they have negotiated with the relatives of the accused person, and we find it really odd, especially when it comes to cases involving very young children, cases of aggravated defilement involving children of below 14 years, children of 7 years or 4 years. We find it unbecoming that parents, relatives of those kinds of children can be wanting to settle such cases out of court. That we find is promoting impunity. And the Director of Public Prosecutions doesn't withdraw those kinds of cases. This is where now the state, our office, comes in to protect those kinds of victims. So we do not encourage negotiations between relatives of victims and accused persons when it comes to those kinds of cases. And we urge the public to cooperate with us and come and testify for as long as they're witnesses, and also bring those children to court to testify, not to hide them. Because when we insist on prosecuting these cases, sometimes they hide the children and refuse to bring them to court.
Viewers, this is a very serious matter. The public and all the viewers are requested to fight sexual gender-based violence, because this is completely unacceptable in our society, because we are destroying the lives of our young people. So we are grateful to the Office of DPP, the police, the judiciary, and all those that are working together to make sure we fight sexual gender-based violence. Now, the other common issue that has been coming up is trafficking in persons. How is that being addressed also?
So for trafficking in persons, we are first and foremost prosecuting. We are prosecuting cases that are deserving of prosecution. Then we are engaging in prosecution-led investigations for these cases, where we, at the earliest opportunity, get involved in the investigation of these cases, and most of them are very complex because a good number of them involve the transnational aspect. So there's domestic trafficking in persons, and then there's transnational trafficking in persons. So the complexity especially arises when there's a transnational aspect. So we ensure that the investigations are prosecution-led so that prosecutions are successfully done, and to also ensure that there are no delays in investigations of these cases. We also, through our Department of Witness Protection and Victim Empowerment, are ensuring that the victims of trafficking in persons are protected before, during, and after testifying in court. So we collaborate with certain civil society organizations to ensure that these victims are protected, mostly through sheltering. So they provide shelter for these victims from the time that they experience the offense and through the trial process. We also are ensuring that these victims are protected during testimony time by using protective measures such as distortion of voices, facial distortions. We also ensure that they testify through audio-video link so that they do not have to come face-to-face with their perpetrators, with those ones that committed crimes against them. Yes, and then we have our Trafficking in Persons Division. It was established to purposely ensure that these cases are efficiently and effectively handled. So that division is part of the International Crimes Department, and it has a head. And on top of that, there are focal point persons all over the country at the different stations, and they report to the head of this division just to ensure that the cases are being properly managed.
Now, really takes me back to probably where we should have started. You know, you've been mentioning the structure in bits where we talked about offices of DPP being around the country. You mentioned the regional offices. What is the structure of the office of DPP at high level like? Because most people probably are not aware of what the structure is and what issue is handled by which department or directorate. You may not necessarily go to all departments, but just give a high-level view of the structure of the office of DPP.
Okay, so we have the Director of Public Prosecutions at the top. She's called Justice Jane Francis Abodo. And then we have Deputy Directors of Public Prosecutions who are heads of directorates. Yes. And there are 4 directorates. We have the Directorate of Prosecutions, we have the Directorate of International Affairs, the Directorate of Inspections, Quality Assurance, Research and Training, and then the Directorate of Management Support Services.
Okay. Can you briefly maybe give a brief description of their functions?
So the Directorate of Prosecutions is charged with managing issues relating to prosecutions of cases and ensuring quality prosecution of cases. Under this directorate, we have specific departments, and they all relate to prosecution. We have the Department of Gender, Children and Sexual Offences, which handles cases relating to gender, children and sexual offences. We have the Anti-Corruption Department that handles corruption-related matters. We have the Department of Appeals and Miscellaneous Applications that handles appeals in the Chief Magistrate's Court, in the High Court, in the Court of Appeal, and in the Supreme Court. And applications, which include bail applications and revisions. We have the Department of General Casework and Homicide, which handles general cases. Other cases not specialized, not like corruption, sexual gender-based violence, no. And then those are some of them, and we also have some units under that directorate, like the cybercrime unit that deals with cyber crimes, management of cyber crimes. We have the Directorate of International Affairs and Asset Recovery. That one deals with issues to do with international cooperation. And when we talk about international cooperation, it's because we have cases that have a transnational nature. Cases where, for instance, there's some evidence in Uganda and there's some evidence in another country, let's say in Congo or in Sweden. So this is where we now see the relevance of this directorate, because it deals with international cooperation, but also deals with international crimes such as war crimes, crimes against humanity, and for that matter, there are 2 departments under that directorate. That is the Department of International Cooperations and Asset Recovery, and then the Department of International Crimes. So the one of International Cooperations is specifically for mutual legal assistance, which is assistance that we get from abroad or that we give to countries, other countries. And asset recovery And then the Department of International Crimes handles international crimes cases, like the Coelho case. Then the Directorate of Inspections, Quality Assurance, Research and Training deals with exactly those issues, ensuring that prosecutions are done well, that all the work that is being done in the institution is being done well. It meets a certain required standard. And it also deals with issues of research and training. And under that directorate, we have a Department of Inspections and Quality Assurance, which is specifically now for that, inspections and quality assurance. Then the Department of Research and Training for research and training. The last directorate is the Directorate of Management Support Services, which deals with ensuring that there's proper management and administration in the institution. And so you find departments like the Department of Witness Protection and Victim Empowerment under that directorate, the Department of Finance and Administration, those are the ones. And after that, then we go to the regional offices, which I talked about. So the regional offices, I mentioned, there are 17 in different regions. And these ones are responsible for ensuring that cases are handled well at the stations. So the station heads report to the regional officers. So from the regional officers, we go down to the resident state attorney offices or the resident state prosecutor offices.
Now, one other area is some of us are not very familiar with how prosecution really is done. What takes place and what is the process? Can you highlight or elaborate on that?
What happens is that once a matter has been taken to court, when it's time for us to prosecute the case, we summon witnesses. We have witnesses summoned, and so the witnesses come to us. And when they come to us, we prepare them for court. Because they made statements at police, which are usually in the case file, we refresh their memories with those statements that they made in preparation for court. And then we take them to court, where now we examine them, we interview them, we ask them questions that relate to the case to extract that evidence out of them that will prove the case against an accused person. And so when they present that evidence to the court, that is now the process of examining the witness and getting out that evidence is prosecution. But usually a case in court is divided in such a way that we have an opportunity as the prosecution to present our case. And then if the court finds that there's a case for an accused person to answer to, then the case goes to the side of the accused person. So the accused person also has an opportunity to present his case. And the prosecutor now will cross-examine the accused person, ask the accused person questions that relate to the case to prove our side, the prosecution side of the case. So we shall also examine the accused person and his or her witnesses. And then at the end of that, we make a submission to the court, where now we are talking about the whole case, the witnesses that came and presented versions, and also analyze the side of the accused person, basically present our theory to the court. The accused will also present his theory, and then now the judge or the magistrate makes a decision. So that is prosecution.
Thank you very much. Now, what would be your final word to the viewers?
It's very important to know institutions in your country that are responsible for offering or giving a service to you. So it's important to be interested in institutions like the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, because it offers a service, a free service to you as members of the public. We represent members of the public as the state, in the capacity of the state, who suffer from commission of offenses, and it is free of charge. So it is very important that the public, you members of the public, understand this, and that you relate with the office in ways that are expected of you. We would expect so much cooperation from you, because we need you to prove cases in court successfully. So please cooperate with us so that we can ensure that there's justice done in this country.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jacqueline Okwi, who is Senior State Attorney and Public Relations Officer in the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions at the headquarters in Kampala. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I believe the viewers have benefited a lot, and likewise all of us have benefited from this discussion. And this has been your Be Your Best show with your host, Julia Storach, a life coach. Keep on watching Smart 24 TV.